preparing to live stream the meeting. Okay. Why don't you pull it up so you can give me a thumbs up at some point? Setting up your meeting for
Pull
YouTube
up what?
Live.
Pull up what?
YouTube somewhere. I don't know. Keep it on the phone, or I can do that. Just need the audio down.
Well, I still can't get into the Meltdown account because you won't give me.
That's okay. Now we're live.
Email address.
We are rocking and rolling. Here we
All
go.
Right. We're live.
We are live.
Okay.
Week 2, college football rankings.
Yeah. Some very interesting things happened tonight, I think. And we wanted to talk about it. Yeah.
Well, some interesting things happened. Not necessarily at the top, right? But some things down kind of in the mid-tier rankings. We saw a bunch of movement. But the big story was that at least the top 6 stayed exactly the same. And but there was some interesting commentary around that. And so we thought that was what was interesting about it, right? All the scenarios we've been talking about.
Yeah, and if there are a lot of cliff jumping Aggies after this weekend, right? And we talked about this in the post-game show after the game because the announcers said about 50 times that A&M needed to win convincingly.
The word of the weekend.
Word of the weekend. In order for their playoff hopes to materialize, if the teams, we know we need help regardless of what we do. But if the chips in front of us fell, we still needed to win convincingly to make the playoff. And we said in the post-game show that was ridiculous. And because all A&M needs to do is win. And if those things in front of us that they thought would happen, or thought could happen, then we're in. And tonight, I think we proved that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Right? Coming in at number 5, we didn't change our ranking. Florida didn't jump us. And so the committee obviously wasn't listening to a lot of the noise of the talking heads, and we didn't expect them to. We, like you said, you didn't expect to see any movement there, and that's what we got. But we did get something even more interesting than that, listening to the college football committee provide their commentary afterwards in their interviews. And that was really about Ohio State.
Yep. So it's been talked about the last couple of days that Ohio State is in danger of losing really the remaining bit of their schedule, right? They're in danger of not making their own conference championship by virtue of not making the minimum number of games set out by the Big Ten in the COVID era, right? And so, and there was questions about, well, what does that mean for their playoff chances? And we found out tonight via some comments from those on the committee that yes, that is certainly going to impact their playoff chances, and that they talked about even tonight or whenever they were doing their deliberations, possibly flipping Ohio State and A&M for this week.
Right.
And that was big to hear and is big for implications down the road for how the scenarios to get A&M in could play out.
Yeah, exactly. So they decided, so they had the conversation. They're in the room. They're right down the road from us. They're about 10 miles from us up here in the Gaylord Texan. Okay, this is where they meet. This is where their headquarters are. And they get in the big room, and they at least had that as a point of debate to the point where they felt comfortable actually mentioning it. And, they don't mention these things lightly. So it was one of two things here. They just want folks to know, hey, A&M is under consideration for number 4. And, oh, by the way, Big Ten, get your crap together and play some football games, right? So that was the message. But, that put to bed the win convincingly argument, like you said. That's off the table. The real message is just win, baby, and it plays out. I even saw some folks, I can't remember who it was. It was Peter Burns or one of the guys, I think it was Dari Noka, right? That tweeted out some weird scenario where 3 SEC teams could get into the playoff with a couple of others falling off. I don't think that's really realistic.
No, I don't either.
But there are some other really strange possibilities still out there, right? And that comes down to what's going on in the ACC. In the ACC title game, which looks like it's locked in.
Yes. So if anybody hasn't heard, the ACC has basically come out and said, we're going to put Notre Dame and Clemson in the ACC title game no matter what. And are they canceling?
Yeah, I think they're done playing.
Games? Wow.
They're done playing. So they're both going to have 2 weeks, it's looking like, until they square off in that title game. And, man, that goes back to what I was talking about just 2 days ago now, that, the LSU win is huge. And then if you get to play the Auburn game, man, win that game, because look at what the ACC decided to do. Other conferences could follow, and you could get locked in after this weekend. Right? That could be your record.
Yeah, because people's reaction to that is they're pretty angry, I think, and it's couched as they're protecting these two big name programs to keep them from potentially faltering before the game, and kind of trying to give themselves the best chance at the playoff. But and maybe there's some of that, but I think a lot of it is just that COVID concern, right? They don't want another outbreak to crater their chances at even like playing that game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they're trying to, canceling your games, get your crap together, be ready for the game. And that's actually maybe kind of smart. I mean, it kind of sucks.
Yeah.
But it's kind of smart. And so to your point, yes, other conferences might look at that and go, you know what? It's trending that direction. Maybe we should do the same thing.
I wasn't really bothered by it, to be honest. If anything, if either one of them tripped up between now and then, that could potentially put A&M's chances in jeopardy. If you get the wrong result in that championship game. So, whatever, I got to look at it through a selfish lens, just anything that can put A&M in a better position. Hey, look, let's just take a look around though. Look at the other rankings. I'll start with number 7. So the top 6 again stayed the same. Cincinnati sitting there at 7, followed by Georgia at 8, the highest ranked 6-2 team. And then another 2-loss team right behind them at number 9, Iowa State, which I think a lot of people are pretty shocked to see that one. So, but you beat Texas.
You beat Texas, beat a top 20 team.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
and then you got Miami rounding out the top 10, followed by Oklahoma, Indiana, BYU hanging out there at 9-0 at number 13, Northwestern and Oklahoma State, and that's your top 15. And I'm not going to waste any time on anybody below 15.
Sure. The one that's interesting to me is actually Oklahoma sitting there at 11, because they're almost certainly going to play number 9 Iowa State in the championship game now. And when you start thinking about all the things that could happen that would keep A&M out, those same things might actually open the door for Oklahoma, I think, if they are impressive enough against Iowa State and down the stretch here to kind of catapult up the rankings. I mean, they've laid it out for them to potentially get a top 10 win. Because if you think, there's several ways for A&M to get in, but I think we agree the big thing that will keep A&M out, if A&M's able to win out, is if Florida beats Alabama. Because in that scenario, I think Florida and Alabama both get in the playoff. And from there, it's a matter of if Notre Dame beats Clemson again, then you're talking Alabama, Florida, Notre Dame, and who's in the 4th spot. It's not going to be A&M, because they're not putting 3 teams in. We've discussed that potentially Ohio State's out because of the game count issue. And from there, so now you're talking about having to jump over Cincinnati, Georgia, and Iowa State team that you're going to beat. I don't think it's completely out of the question that in that chaotic scenario that Oklahoma gets the 4th spot over A&M, even if A&M wins out and only has 1 loss. Am I crazy?
Yeah, you're crazy. You're definitely crazy. a 2-loss Oklahoma team with the 2 losses that are sitting there.
You think it's Cincinnati in that scenario?
No, I still think it's us. I think it's 3 SEC teams.
It's 3 SEC teams in that scenario. Oh,
and here's why. This is where I put faith in the committee to say who are the best 3 or the best 4 teams. And it would be criminal. It really would in that scenario be criminal that A&M only has 1 loss. And that's to your number 1 team. And they have a victory over your number 2 team that time. Right?
Yeah.
In fact, in your scenario, no, because Florida beats Alabama. So that I really do think you end up they might be 1, 2, 3 in that scenario.
Yeah, and we'd be 4, right? No, you'd have Notre Dame 1, Florida 2.
Well, that's
Alabama
true. Notre Dame
3,
would be 1.
Alabama 3 and A&M 4 in that
Right.
magical scenario. So now you're talking about, oh God, I would actually love that. Now you're talking about us matching up against Notre Dame,
right,
in the first round, and
I'd get my wish.
Yeah, absolutely. But then you're talking about Alabama and Florida rematching days later.
Man, it sets up crazy. It is crazy. I just can't imagine. And the reason I say this is I think the committee views the top 6 teams and there's a pretty big gap from 6 to 7 and 7 on down. And they're kind of stuck with what to do with all of these guys down here at the bottom. And it is a little bit more of a beauty pageant, but I think there's quite a bit of separation. And I just cannot imagine a team with 2 losses. Obviously Oklahoma would avenge one of them, but then you've got the K-State loss sitting out there. You've got the fact that I don't care what anybody said. I mean, Iowa State still's got some really bad results on their resume as well, or at least one, right? Maybe they'll send ULala to the number 4 seed in the playoff.
I believe I said several times on our post-game show the other night after a couple of very large glasses of scotch that Iowa State was trash. Not just questionable results on their schedule, but that they were trash.
Yeah, you called them a trash football team.
I called them a trash football team, and I stand by that. I'm not sorry about it. So,
hey, listen, man.
But the committee still got them at 9. So obviously they don't agree with me. So,
Hey, Coastal's sitting there at 18.
Oh, screw Coastal Carolina.
Right? They're 9-0. Okay. They beat ULala. That's ULala's only loss. ULala beat Iowa State. Right? So I'm looking at this as Coastal Carolina is the only 9-0 non, Power 5, whatever. I don't even know what conference they're in, to be honest.
The American Conference.
The American Conference. Good for them. Yeah, they're the ones that deserve to be in there. Okay, over all these other guys, the Cincinnatis, the BYU.
Yeah.
And they're the rightful Big 12 champion. So I will recognize them as such, and I'll start pulling for them to get in. So, they deserve it. They played their schedule.
ULala is at 25. They do deserve it.
God, what a crazy year. There they are. They're sitting down there at 25. You're right. So they got a top 25 win, and then they by virtue of whatever, they've got a top 10 win. That's how I view it. So they deserve it, and pigs will fly. But crazier things have happened.
Sure.
Anyway, just pivot over to the Aggies since we got a couple minutes before we got to cut this off. Any other thoughts after hearing from the team and rewatching the game and listening to the film room with Stephen McGee?
Yeah. Boy, it was even worse than it looked on television, I think, is the conclusion I've come to as far as our offensive performance. And to be fair, performance of our quarterback. And, look, the dude was rolling. So I'm not going to get down about it, but that's the reality. This guy played horrible. And we were still up. I know we only scored 13 offensive points, but you're still up 20-0 with what do we give? We gave them a minute and a half, I think, with the ball up 20-0 before the garbage touchdown. The interesting thing to me is that I just saw before we came in here, Jimbo's kind of post-game talk to the players, and you can tell the tone in Jimbo's voice, the look on their faces. You know, they weren't happy, which you didn't expect them to be. But also, you know, Jimbo's telling them not to get down,
Right.
Not to get down on each other. Just worry about what you can do. And you could tell, like, the guys in that locker room, they have their sights set really high.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I took away from it too, that they wanted to roll LSU.
Yeah.
They wanted some payback. You know, the whole conversation the week before, Jimbo was real coy, and revenge is not productive. That mindset, right? Going out and practicing and executing. But the players feed off of emotion. They wanted to roll those dudes.
But even if it's not necessarily revenge, it's still a statement. You know, you haven't played in 3 weeks.
Right.
And yeah, I think there was kind of some looks on the faces of those defensive guys like, we did our part.
Yeah.
We gave you the ball back over and over and over again. And this should have been a 40-point win. Not in like a divisive way, but you could tell, like, they were just like, man, that should have felt better than it did.
I think it's the mentality of, we set the table and we didn't get to eat the way we wanted to eat.
Yeah.
Right. And it was there. Go back and watch the film, and you see where the mistakes were made on the field, and the huge penalties that killed some momentum plays as well. Like, there was just points all over the place to be had, and there was first downs to be had. And, for whatever reason. And I will say this, Jimbo is very sly with how he communicates through the media back to his players. And in this case, his quarterback, because I did notice, he'll get into a press conference, he'll start rattling off some things, and, well, we dropped this, and we can't be dropping a pass here, and we can't be doing this, and we can't have an incompletion and a bad pass, or 2 or 3 bad passes. He'll say things like that. He's very sly about that, where he'll spread the blame, but he'll make sure that everybody in the room knows he knew where the biggest problem was. And that's where the biggest problem was on that day. And even he made some mention of it in his halftime comments, and even in his post game. So he's been consistent, and hopefully they go out and get a really good week of practice and go to Auburn and get some good weather, wake up, have a good breakfast, just kick some ass, and then come home. Go take care of business. And that is a football team that needs to be pummeled. They absolutely need it. And we are in a good position. We're in a good mentality, and I think he'll have them in a pretty much believing, hey, you go win this game, and it's going to happen.
Maybe a little tease for our shirt of shame bet predictions that we'll do later this week. But there it is. If anybody's watching, I know you're not, but one of us is hopefully going to be wearing that shirt, and hopefully it's that guy during our post game show. We have a standing bet every week on score predictions, and the loser has to wear that shirt.
It's not going to be me.
It was neither of us last week. There was a push, but it's almost always me. But I am feeling like they come out and make the statement they wanted to make against LSU. But we'll see. And speaking of that, so, we talked about how this convincingly narrative was ridiculous. And it was extremely stupid. When it comes to actually making the playoff here in a few weeks, right? And the way they had laid out the scenarios, if Alabama wins and Notre Dame and blah, 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 it convincingly doesn't matter. When it comes down to it, you're going to be in if you can win the games. But now knowing what we know about what the committee is already thinking about Ohio State, if it matters to you to be number 4 next Tuesday, instead of just at the end of the year, you can do it this weekend. That's what they're basically saying. You go roll Auburn, and you're going to be number 4 next week.
Yep.
So if that matters to you, and hey, that'd be a lot of fun. then that's available to you this week. And so, I think the players understand that. I think you can tell they want it. So hopefully we get good Kellen.
Oh, we need good Kellen. I think everybody's going to show up. I went back and watched, and I thought the offensive line actually did play pretty well. They kept a clean pocket. The running backs were obviously up to par. There were open guys on the field. Not every play, but they were there.
No. Well, yeah. I tell you what, that's the one that got me today, rewatching the game and then seeing what Kostak posted and Stephen McGee in this film room today. Both of them pointed out the exact same play, and it shocked me because I remember the play distinctly. It was the appeared to be double covered throw to Anias very early, I think on our first possession. And when you break down the film, that was stick concept, which didn't even occur to me at the time. But if you watch the film, it's open,
right?
But the ball is a couple of seconds too late. It's so late, and those guys are there,
right?
But if the ball comes out when it's supposed to, he's wide open,
right?
That's not failure to beat press man, which there was plenty of that. But that's just failure of a quarterback to let go of the football on time.
Yeah, I think it was an easy out for us, right? It was an excuse for us in a way to say, oh, well, we can't beat press man. You know what? LSU really wasn't lined up on our guys like that, like you would have thought.
Not all the time.
Not all the time. And, that was a perfect play because you saw the hesitation in the footwork, right? The extra little shuffle of the feet and where
and the impact it has.
Yes. And it's so small, but it's a three-step drop pop, right? And it's open. And, there was plenty more of that on the night. I mean, there were just flat out misses, but that's what you can, but the misses come when Kellen is slow to read and react because, I thought, Steve McGee, he uses that term, pull on the string, right? And he starts aiming that football instead of throwing that football, and it never works out well, especially when it's wet, And I thought there was a nice seam route, Hezekiah Jones, where Wademeyer lines up on the left side, basically takes the safety out of the play to the outside. Hez comes underneath, and for that split second, that's a 20-yard gain. Throw the football. And
the separation's there.
The separation is there, and it's 1st and goal from the 8 or 9 at worst.
Yeah.
If not, make a guy miss and fall into the end zone. That play actually, and Kellen's made that throw, right? He tied LSU 2 years ago with that throw, and he did it by reading and reacting. Boom, there it was. And, that just wasn't what was going on the other night. So, and it's really frustrating because we actually got some insight. I don't know if you watched this, but the SEC, one of the SEC production teams did a behind the scenes view with A&M in practice this week. And it'll make you sick to your stomach because it's 3 minutes of us just airing it out in practice and Kellen hitting everybody in stride and Jimbo just talking it up and great ball, great route. Let's run it again. It looks good and everything's just crisp. And I know it's practice, right? But Jimbo said that in his press conference. He said, man, practice was great, and the conditions weren't that bad. You could tell he's mystified by what was on the field. So got work to do, but there's the challenge. So we'll see if they're up to task. That's it, man. I'm done for tonight. Cool. Let's kill it. And Ags stay at 5. Opportunity to get to 4. Big one coming up this weekend. And we will be on after we beat the hell out of Auburn.
With probably less scotch.
That'd be a good idea.
It's at 2:30.
That'd be a good idea.
After last week, it might just be a tasting. We'll see.
All right. You killed my perfect wrap up.
Okay.
Talk to you later. Out.
Bye.